We're back with more updates coming out of Cowboys Minicamp, where practices have wrapped up and the buzz is building. It's officially optimism season for NFL fans, unless, of course, your team had a brutally bad offseason like the Cowboys did last year. But this time around, the tone is different. There are some genuine positives to discuss, even with it being just non-padded minicamp and OT practices. From promising signs out of Micah Parsons and Jake Ferguson to some very welcome injury updates, the Cowboys are showing signs of heading in the right direction. Let's start with Micah Parsons. He surprised everyone in a good way by participating, albeit in a limited fashion, during minicamp. Initially, he was simply observing drills from the sideline, but then he jumped in for individual work. No team drills for him yet, so if we were doing an in-season injury report, you'd probably call him a limited participant. What's notable isn't just the physical involvement, but what it says about his mindset. He clearly has practice FOMO. You can almost picture him like that dog you see in memes, trembling with energy in the back of a car, just itching to get out and run. That's Parsons, a guy who's wired to compete, even in preseason or low-stakes sessions. It's also worth considering how his limited participation plays into his ongoing contract situation. Micah knows the game, not just the one on the field, but the PR side of NFL negotiations. He's been savvy, getting out ahead of speculation by expressing his willingness to get a deal done early. Of course, he could have taken a below-market deal and wrapped it up already, but there's no reason for a player of his caliber to accept anything less than what he's worth. Despite the ongoing talks, his actions continue to show that he loves football. You can't question his desire or leadership, and let's be honest, very few in league history have produced like he has this early in their careers. The only names in his statistical category are Hall of Famers. So, just pay the man. Let's avoid the drama and get back to focusing on football. Moving on to Jake Ferguson, he had a strong day of practice, getting all the first-team reps and making multiple red zone touchdown catches during the team's 2-minute drills. Now, granted, minicamp stats always come with an asterisk. These sessions aren't full contact or high intensity, but still, this is what you want to see. Ferguson is in a contract year and needs a bounce-back season after a 2024 campaign that didn't meet expectations. Injuries, chemistry issues, and a generally off-kilter offensive rhythm all contributed to his struggles. He's now clearly behind CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens in the passing game hierarchy, which might seem like a downgrade, but there's a silver lining. With elite targets ahead of him, Ferguson might not get as many total looks, but the ones he does get could come in more high-leverage situations. That could mean more red zone targets or third down conversions, where he can make a bigger impact with fewer chances. If the offense runs more efficiently, Ferguson could have a more productive year, even if the raw stats don't spike. That's why it's encouraging that he looked sharp in this session. There was some brief speculation earlier in the week when he was getting second teamwork, but it seems that was more about giving Brevin Spanford a look or perhaps indicating that Luke Schoonmaker might be slipping a bit in the competition rather than a sign that Ferguson was falling out of favor. It's important not to overreact to one day of practice. Context matters. They might have been testing certain blocking packages, or Ferguson might have been under the weather. In minicamp, things like rotations can change for reasons that aren't always disclosed. The Cowboys might deploy more two tight end sets this season, especially now that they've upgraded their receiving core. With Lamb and Pickens stretching the field, they can afford to put a better blocking tight end on the field without sacrificing explosiveness. That could give Ferguson a strategic advantage, especially if he rebounds into the 2023 version of himself even if his final stat line ends up somewhere closer to 600 yards rather than 750. What matters most is efficiency and impact per target. He needs to return to form this year, not just for his own contract situation, but because the rest of the tight end room remains a major question mark. Injury-wise, there was even more good news today. Sam Williams and Donovan Wilson both returned to individual drills, a very encouraging sign as Minicamp winds down. Tomorrow's practice is more of a walkthrough, so today's action was essentially the final chance to evaluate player participation ahead of training camp. Let's talk about Donovan Wilson first. He had a knee scope earlier this offseason, and while there were no major concerns about his long-term availability, it's reassuring to see him back this early. If he's already doing individual work in mid-June, it bodes well for him being off the PUP list and ready to go for the start of training camp, even if he's on a slight pitch count. Wilson was inconsistent last season, especially in coverage, but we now know he was likely playing through that knee issue for most of the year. A healthy Wilson could make a big difference. As for Sam Williams, this might be the most exciting update. He tore his ACL less than a year ago, and now he's already participating in individual drills. That's a strong sign he'll be ready for the start of training camp, right on the projected recovery timeline. If he can be a full participant from day one, there's a real chance he could make a leap this year, something the Cowboys need with pass rush depth being so critical. A healthy and improved Sam Williams could provide some much-needed juice off the edge and potentially allow Micah Parsons to be more versatile in his role. We'll have more Minicamp updates soon, including full breakdowns of winners and losers from the week. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that, and don't forget to weigh in down in the comments. Will the Cowboys get Micah Parsons' contract done before camp? And will Jake Ferguson bounce back in 2025? Let us know. Stay tuned for more coverage as we roll toward training camp. Been in that almost category for a while now, flashes of speed, explosiveness, and potential, but not quite the breakout campaign we've all been hoping for. With a clean bill of health heading into training camp, this could finally be the year Sam Williams takes that leap and establishes himself as a consistent contributor on the defensive line. The Cowboys will need him to, especially with the ongoing uncertainty about rotational depth and how the pass rush is going to be structured beyond the Micah Parsons-DeMarcus Lawrence tandem. If Williams can stay healthy and bring a consistent motor, that changes a lot for this defense, both in terms of scheme flexibility and overall effectiveness. A healthy Williams also gives Dan Quinn, or whoever is handling the defense, moving forward another athletic weapon that offenses must account for. That's especially important with how many offenses are leaning into quicker passing attacks and trying to neutralize traditional pass rushes. Williams' burst off the line can disrupt those timing-based concepts, but again, it all hinges on his availability and continued development. This time of year is all about getting those reps, building muscle memory, and staying on the field. If he can do all that, expectations for him will rise accordingly. Now, stepping back and looking at the bigger picture, the Cowboys are starting to string together some promising signs. Sure, these are just minicamp and OTA practices. And yes, they're non-padded, which tempers the weight of certain observations. But momentum builds from the little things: consistency in drills, returning players from injury, visible chemistry between quarterbacks and receivers, or tight ends like Ferguson. This is where the foundation for a successful season is built. The Cowboys aren't entering 2025 with the same doom and gloom narrative that surrounded them last year. Instead, we're seeing a team that appears more focused, more connected, and possibly more motivated by last season's disappointments. Between Micah Parsons showing up and trying to get involved even when it wasn't necessary, Ferguson bouncing back and making plays, and injury updates trending in the right direction, you start to sense this roster is preparing for something bigger. Of course, there's still plenty of time between now and Week 1, and things can always shift dramatically in the NFL. But as far as early signs go, this version of the Cowboys looks sharper and more engaged. The next few weeks leading into camp will be crucial, but if they maintain this upward trend, there's a chance this team can finally match the hype with results.